So obviously guys, in update 2.1 we got the brand new rework for Renewal. I'm not sure saying brand new is necessarily correct in this situation because it's an old map, but you guys know what I mean. We got the reworked version of Renewal, and today I essentially just wanted to jump on and give you guys my thoughts on the changes to the map in a bit more of a deep dive. I kind of touched on a little bit in my update review, but now that I've had even more time to play it, I wanted to give you guys my full thoughts on it and essentially just talk about whether or not I think it was actually worth spending all that time and doing. If you guys are new to the channel, definitely hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. But with that being said, let's get stuck right into it. So I sort of have to preface this video by saying that Renewal is probably one of my least favorite maps in the game, at least for Conquest. Anyway, for Breakthrough, I actually don't mind it all that much. Personally, Breakthrough for me is way more enjoyable, and pretty much all the maps I feel are better on Breakthrough. They do all have a few balancing issues and stuff like that, but when there's a map that kind of sucks in Conquest, I feel like a lot of it can be fixed in Breakthrough when you sort of funnel people through the same area and all of it sort of takes place in those high traffic areas. But in terms of Conquest, and that's really all I'm judging for this video because I haven't really had the chance to play Breakthrough on it just yet, it is definitely one of my least favorite maps and has been since launch. Now in terms of how it looks, it's probably one of my favorite maps. I think it looks absolutely stunning. I love the idea of the map having the big wall through the middle and, you know, completely different terrain on each side of the wall. I think it looks awesome, but in terms of the way it plays, I've never enjoyed how this map plays in Conquest. So it was already kind of fighting an uphill battle for me. They were going to have to do some crazy changes to this map for me to fully enjoy it. But what I will say is that the changes overall I think are actually better than I expected. I think because I don't enjoy the map all that much, I kind of just thought, it's not gonna, it's not really gonna do it for me still, going by what they did to Kaleidoscope, where, I don't mind that map, but the changes didn't make it like drastically better. It's definitely improved, but overall it is still the same map. It's just, a slightly better version of it. And so judging by that and what they did with that map, I kind of just thought this wouldn't really do anything for me. But what I will say, it definitely does play a little bit better. I've found myself hanging between the D1, D2 and C1 flags, which is sort of that, like, they're essentially the area from the wall to the green field area. There are 3 flags that are essentially in a bit of a triangle there, and that's kind of where I've been spending most of my time. And that area definitely feels a lot better. There's a lot more cover on the actual capture points and flags themselves, but even in between in those fielded areas, there is now a bit of terrain deviation, so you're not just running through a flat open field. You can sort of hug those little hills there that give you a bit of cover, and if someone starts shooting at you, you can sort of run to the other side of the hill really quickly. So that area definitely feels a lot better. I also think the cover that they added in the main, the big building at the back there, that is definitely a big improvement too, because that was a very bare building. It was essentially just like a vanilla building. They hadn't really put anything inside there, whereas now there's a heap of cover and it actually plays a lot better. So those 2 areas definitely feel a lot more improved. I think the desert area for me, it still feels pretty similar. It already had enough deviation in the terrain that there was always hills to hide behind and all that kind of thing, so it doesn't feel drastically different to me personally. I think it's the A1 flag in 128 player Conquest, that definitely feels a lot better, but again, that's also so far out of the way that I don't think that many people really go there. Obviously the center flags on any map, they're going to be the most populated because most people just want to be in the center of the map. It's just quicker to get to all the other flags, but for a flag like A1, it is pretty far out of the way, so that is definitely improved. But with that being said, it's kind of an obscure spot to really try and focus on because it's just not that important. Now, like I said, for Breakthrough, I haven't played that, and I think that area will actually play really well for Breakthrough because I think that's why they kind of focused on that area, as well as a lot of the terrain deviation that I personally don't feel changes much in Conquest. I do think that will help sort of funnel everyone through those areas in Breakthrough, so I can't really touch on that too much. It probably sounds like a bit of a negative when I'm talking about it for Conquest, but for Breakthrough, I'm sure those changes are actually really solid, so I'm going to reserve my judgment on that part just purely because it's probably more done for Breakthrough than Conquest. What I will say though is that I do still think this hasn't really made the map all that much better in terms of the overall layout and the flow of the map. It's definitely an improvement, but for me personally, if the map was a 5 out of 10, then it's probably now a 5.5, maybe a 6 out of 10. So it's definitely an improvement, but at the end of the day, it's still a 6 out of 10. It's not the best map in the game by any means. And I've said this a few times on the podcast with Sage that when the map is just so fundamentally not good. The fact that it's so flat, it's very boring. It's essentially just a wall in the middle, a big flat area. Obviously the desert area is a bit less flat, but inside it is just literally flat fields and then like one central building and a couple other smaller buildings scattered around. For me, that is just not a well-designed map. It's just all so open. There's no real flow to it. If you want to get from A to B, you just literally run from A to B. A lot of maps that are the most well-designed maps, they kind of like force you, or not force you, but they kind of encourage you to go through a certain pathway to get from A to B, which might take you on a couple of different directions, and that's generally where it kind of funnels everyone into those same areas and you get those really chaotic moments. But on a map like Renewal, it just feels like it is just a genuine open sandbox, which I know that's what everyone says we want that in Battlefield, but there's a lot of times you're just running through an open field and there's no one near you because that's not really funneling players to that area, if that makes sense. So I think the changes are good, but like I said, I think it's just a fundamentally not well designed map. Now I can't complain about the changes because it's definitely improved the map. So for me, it gets like pass marks. I think it's still worth it to make the map, if it goes from a 5 to a 6, I do think that's worth it. But I'm also not going to sit here and say, oh, it's now my favorite map, because it just hasn't really changed for me personally. So that is essentially how I feel about Renewal. Obviously, I'm keen to hear what you guys think. I've heard a lot of mixed opinions. I've heard some people say it literally just doesn't change the map at all, and I've heard some people say like it's now one of their favorite maps. So I'm keen to hear what you guys think down in the comment section. What I'll also say is I'm really looking forward to the Orbital rework, because that looked like genuinely very good. And the point that I was just making about Renewal, where I think it's just fundamentally not a good map, I do think Orbital is a very good map. It's just that it is lacking that, the cover in certain areas and a bit more sort of like detail to the map. And that's what we're getting in that Orbital rework. So I think the Orbital changes are going to be really good. And I think that will actually take that to be maybe, for example, from a 7.5 to an 8.5, which that's starting to become a really, really solid map. So I'm very keen to see how that one plays. As for the one after that, I'm going to guess that is Hourglass. There is an image. I'll try and find it and put it on screen for you guys. But there was an image that I think was just in the store. It might have even been like a player card or something. I'm not too sure. But it had a picture of, I want to say Falk. And they were on Hourglass and there was a bunch of cover everywhere. So whether that's just like concept art, I'm not really sure. There's obviously been plenty of concept art for this game that's just sort of a little bit different than what the game actually is like. But this was also released after the game had already been out and after these, the other maps were getting worked on already. So my guess for the next one is actually going to be Hourglass, but again, that is just essentially speculation. And on top of what you guys think of Renewal, definitely let me know what map you guys want to see done next after Orbital. I do think a lot of people probably will say Hourglass, because that is just the most, open, abandoned map that has ever been made. So I think a lot of people will say that, but I think all of the maps can definitely do with the rework. So I'm keen to hear what you guys think of that as well down below. That's going to do it for me though. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like down below. If you're new to the channel, then definitely hit that subscribe button. And if you guys want to support the content that I make here on YouTube, then consider becoming a channel member. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.